delaying the proceedings any further, I'd like to introduce our first speaker to you. My question to you today is, are you ready to find real fulfillment, but you just don't know how? Are you ready to find what your true calling is? I'm hoping that Ariane de Bonvoisin will be able to guide you through this process, because that's what she does best. Personal reinvention. Her books, her work, and her website attempt to offer inspiration to people who are committed to learning, growing, and seeking self-knowledge. Please give a warm welcome to Ariane.
Oh, welcome, welcome. It is a beautiful day to change lives. Yes? I said that this morning to my 1-month-old son. I have a little 1-month-old baby called Everest, little boy, and I was breastfeeding him in the green room, and I was just sort of thinking and preparing what I was going to say, and that's sort of what came through me. So, as I said, I'm thrilled to be here. I want to take a second to acknowledge all the people who have made this incredible conference happen. All the partners, the sponsors, these sort of things wouldn't happen without you. All the people at O Magazine, of course. I want to also acknowledge my fellow speakers. Some have come from an incredibly long way. Julia's come all the way from the US. Reedy is amazing for having come here after 5 days of giving birth. And I also want to acknowledge Oprah, of course, as being one of my teachers and certainly one of all of your teachers. So we have about half an hour, which is actually very little time for what I usually get. So we're going to do this really quick, as sort of concise and succinct as I can with you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share some insights, some observations about why it is that some people make changes. Why is it that some of you here are going to take some of this content and go do something with it, and some of you are not? Some of you are going to hang on to excuses. Some of you are going to go out and actually do something fantastic, change your life, find your purpose, get in touch with your intuition. I'm also going to share a little bit of my story, because I'm pretty sure very few of you know who I am. And I want to tell you, I really want to just sort of acknowledge this beautiful country that you live in. We love South Africa. We do. I am incredibly lucky to have met a beautiful South African man. I have good taste. Yes, so my little boy is a South African. We met in Cambodia, actually, quite a while ago. And we were living in New York, and we moved back here about a year ago. We now live in Cape Town. We actually moved 10 months ago. So if you do the math, I'm 9 months, 1 month. Cape Town is not called the mother city for nothing. Yeah. So I pretty much got pregnant the day I arrived, so your country's been incredibly good to me. So, my story. I have a strange accent, as you can probably hear. Very weird. It changes daily depending on where I am in the world. So I thought I'd just sort of clear that up before you sort of wonder where I'm from. I was born in the United States, so I was born in New York City. I have European parents, so I have a French mother and a Belgian father. And I grew up actually in 6 different countries, so none of you are going to guess the accent. I grew up in the US, I grew up in France. French is my mother tongue. I grew up in Belgium, I grew up in Hong Kong and China and the UK. It's quite a mouthful. But there's one thing that's in common there. I obviously was thrown into a lot of change very early on in life. I don't think my parents quite knew what they were doing with me, but they were certainly preparing me for what I now do with my life, which is to really encourage and inspire people to get comfortable with change and to know that change is your friend. It's not to be feared, it's not something bad. So here's how I grew up. Even though I grew up with a lot of change, I grew up in a very conventional family. I had to do what was right, I had to be perfect, I had to study hard. What was expected of me was that I was going to get a great job, it was going to be safe, I was going to stay there for a very long time, I was going to have kids young, I was going to marry the right guy, I was going to stay in my religion of birth, very sort of strict. And so that's sort of what I ended up being and doing for quite a while, because I thought that was the way to succeed. I thought that was the way to get happiness. And I certainly thought that was the way to fit in and also get my parents' approval, which a lot of us are still trying to get, by the way. And so what I did is I pretty much gave up on my soul's desires. I gave up on what I thought was going to make me happy. And what happened was I, at the time, wanted to be an Olympic swimmer. I made the Olympic trials, and I sort of was then sent off to boarding school and told to study hard. And so because I was so disappointed and depressed with that, I did that really quickly. So I graduated school when I was 16. I graduated university when I was 19. And I was on a mission to basically prove myself and to be someone big and to be someone special, because that's what I thought needed to happen. And so I, after university in the UK, in a big famous university in London, I joined a big management consulting company, worked there for 2 years, climbed that ladder. Then I did the next thing that was expected of me. I went to business school. I got an MBA at a university in California called Stanford. Graduated there when I was 23. Yeah. And you can see the path of where this is going, right? And so basically for the next 10 years, I chose to live in New York City, because I thought that was the city of dreams, the city to make it, the city to prove myself, and the city to really get happy, make some money, you know, do, again, what I thought was going to really bring me my joy. So I worked in 3 big media companies, and not to go into too much detail about those, but the last one I worked for was a big company called AOL Time Warner, and I found myself at the age of 28 in charge of $500 million. I was running a fund that would invest in internet companies. And I remember being at this job and going, there's something very wrong about this picture. And it wasn't that the job wasn't interesting and fulfilling, but something was wrong with the picture. And I started realizing very painfully that this whole life that I'd built up for myself by, near the age of 30, that I'd actually climbed the wrong ladder. And this ladder was definitely leaning up against the wrong wall. And it's not a comfortable feeling, guys, when you get in touch with that and you actually start being honest with yourself and you go, I've created this life and it's someone else's life. It's actually not what I would choose. And I'm sure some of you in the audience are going, oh my God, wrong ladder, wrong wall. How do I get off my ladder? And we're going to go into that, in a few minutes. But I started going, I don't know if I can get off this ladder. Like, I was pretty far advanced. I was, hanging out with celebrities and VIPs and having this big sort of glamorous life. And so if I stepped out of this, I was sort of stepping out into the void, the unknown. Like, what else was I going to be doing? And to be honest with you, it took about 2 or 3 years for me to do that. But here's what started happening for me. This thing that I call the inner microphone started going off very strongly. And I can tell you, when it starts going off, as much as you try, you can't shut it down. So here's what my inner microphone sounded like. Ariane, you're in the wrong job. And it would wake me up every morning, and every morning I'd have to turn it down, because otherwise I'd have to make some big changes and have some consequences. Here's the other thing it was saying. Ariane, you're sleeping with the wrong guy. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. Because of course, you know me, I had gone to get the guy in New York. People magazine had basically said that he was one of the top 20 bachelors. And you'd think that was a good thing, but the truth is I had no connection, no soul, no spiritual, really interaction with him whatsoever. But again, I was clinging to that, right? I was clinging to this is what I should be doing, and it was all wrong. And the other thing it was saying was, Ariane, you have to lose the weight. Because, in kilos, I was probably about 15 kilos more than I am now. And this is, pregnancy weight a little bit on. So, this whole life had sort of been given to me, and actually I didn't want any of it. And so to really cut a long story short, what did happen is I did choose to leave all of those things. I did choose to break off the engagement. I did choose to, leave that corporate job. And in some ways, these 2 perfect identities sort of had to fall away. And the number one thing I had to do is sort of to step into the unknown and to get comfortable with it. And if there's one thing I can tell you about change, is change is all about getting comfortable with the unknown. If you want to cling to what you know, if you want to cling to being, how you've always been and your current identity, that's not where change happens. So I'd say the first thing to think of is, how comfortable am I really with the unknown? So those identities fell apart, and what started happening for me was I was going, well, now what, right? What do I do? I didn't tell my parents for a little while, believe me, because they weren't really going to approve with this decision. And I sort of went, well, what do I love? I started asking different questions of myself, that self-inquiry. What is worth doing with this life? What inspires me? What makes my heart sort of, open up and get joyful? And I hadn't asked those questions in decades, really, because I'd never been given permission to. And so when I did, what I found was I did something that I love, which is the number one thing to do, is get back in touch with what you love. And I love traveling. You can imagine with the childhood I have. So I went traveling, and I started asking God, the universe, life, for some guidance. And I sort of grew a little antenna on my head, and I started going, please put me in perfect synchronicity with people, with things, with ideas, with books that could potentially help me. Show me the way. Show me the way. This was my big mantra. How can I serve? How can I help? What should I be doing? And then I let it go. And what started happening was everyone I was meeting when I was traveling was going through some sort of change. And every single one of you in this room are as well. You're in one of three categories. You're either going through some sort of life change. You got married, you got pregnant, you've had a baby, you've got divorced, you have a health diagnosis going on, you've adopted a child, you've lost a job, you've started a business. I can't cover all the changes, but there are lots of them. But you're in some sort of a life change, and it's bringing stuff up for you. Second category of people I met, and all of you are in this, is you're thinking about making a change. There's something going on that inner microphone is already sort of speaking to you. But you're thinking about maybe leaving a job, maybe pursuing a dream, maybe going back to school, maybe quitting smoking, maybe losing some weight. And the third category is a lot of people are helping someone else through change. So you're helping a spouse, you're helping siblings, you're helping children who have some sort of issue going on. There is a fourth category that someone told me at a recent seminar, which is quite a few of us are waiting for someone else to change. Yes. The husband, the boyfriend, the teenager, the boss, whatever it might be. We'll put that aside for a while. But the other thing I started hearing is this. A lot of people would say to me, I hate change. I feel overwhelmed with change. I am bad at change. Give me my old life back. Give me the body back. Give me my money back. Give me the job back. But it was like this real resistance to change, and it was fascinating to me because I thought change is the number one constant in life. And yet we all hate it, we all resist it. If we could, we just want to avoid it completely. And I thought there must be a way to make change easier. And I'd never been told this. Obviously, I'd just been thrown into it. But I really wanted to get, why is it? Are there principles? Is it age? Is it are women better at change? What is it? And so I started casually interviewing people. I never thought I would be doing what I do now, believe me. I started casually interviewing people who were going through all these changes. So I interviewed over 1,000 people. And I sort of was asking questions and just listening to, are there sort of similarities at this point? And what I found is there are these, what I call these 9 principles of change that in some ways make a giant, giant difference. And unfortunately, I'm not going to go through all of them today. They are in the book for you to get. But what I am going to do is to tell you this. Change is the most important life skill. I don't know if you've ever gone through a course on change. It is the most important thing to get comfortable with. Are there any parents in the room? You must teach your kids to go through change. A lot of parents protect their kids from change. That's why we walk into this world and we're then terrified of change. So here's some insights, observations I'm going to sort of share with you very briefly. First one, I've mentioned it already, is the inner microphone. Here's what happens with the inner microphone. We shut it down, we shut it down, we shut it down, we shut it down. Today, at this incredible conference, I'm going to ask you to turn that microphone up. Get back in touch with that intuition, because I promise you, it's nothing we're going to say on stage that is going to give you your expertise and your guidance. You're the one who knows what is right for you. You know if you're done with a relationship. You know if you want to sort of go out there and pursue a dream or start a business or whatever it is. So what is it for you? The most important thing I ask myself is, what do I need to get honest about? What am I not? What am I avoiding? What do I know has to change now? It's like now's the time. You know, I got really fed up with having this external life and then having a totally different internal life. And when those two things are not in sync, I can tell you that creates stress in your life. That creates upset, it creates disappointment, it creates just this feeling of unease where, you know, you're showing up in one way and then inside you're actually a totally different person. So your inner microphone is what's going to get you, you know, in sync with the life on the outside that you've created. See, I've got mommy brain now. I just want to make sure I tell you everything that I can. You know, you're always being given clues. You think you don't. A lot of people say, well, I don't know what I want to do, and I don't know what my life purpose is, and I don't know, and I don't know, and I don't know. And the truth is, you do know. You do know, because you have that intuition. And if you can't hear the intuition, a lot of people are like, I can't actually hear it. What I would say is intuition always speaks through the body. And we all have one. But the intuition is going to start sort of giving you clues. Are you eating too much? Are you drinking too much coffee? Are you drinking too much alcohol? Are you avoiding something? Are you sleeping less? You know, the body is where the intuition is seated. And so start tuning in really to what is it that my body keeps telling me that I'm ignoring. Because when you start doing that, you will feel so courageous. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of confidence to start something, and especially to get out of something, if that's something that you're thinking about doing today. What gets in the way? Second, insight and observation. There are only so many things that get in the way of you actually making a change. I'd put them in 3 categories to be really brief. Your excuses, your stories, and your beliefs. So excuses, you can imagine after doing 7 years of this and interviewing over 10,000 people, I've heard a lot of the excuses of why people don't go through change. So I'm going to throw out a few today. You probably have your own and you can hang on to it. But here are a few. I'm too old. Anyone? I'm too young. Also, you know, some people think they've got to do a certain amount of life before they can then sort of do what they want to do. It's not my nature. I'm not the sort of person that gets divorced. I'm not the sort of person that starts a business, but it's not my nature. You know, identity changes are some of the hardest changes we get to make. Here are 2 big ones. Someone's going to disapprove. Spouse, mother, father, best friend. Someone's going to give you a hard time if you make this change. It's a big one, big stopping block for people. Another one is it's going to take time, especially for women in the audience. I don't have time. How could I possibly do this? I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. It's going to cost money. Another big excuse. Or I'm not educated enough. I don't have the skills. What do I know about writing a book? What do I know about speaking? What do I know about any of these things? So those are sort of some of the excuses. And what I would say is you can make a choice here. You can get to hang on to your excuse, which a lot of people do and a lot of you will. Or you can get a choice to go, you know, who would I be without my excuse? If I didn't have this excuse, what would actually be possible? Find someone who doesn't have that excuse. You know, there's so many beautiful people here today who sort of role model them. What's actually possible without the excuse? Stories. We are addicted to our stories. We have stories about why we can't lose weight, why we can't quit smoking, why we can't leave the safe corporate job because we have kids, why we got divorced, why our parents got divorced, why you're depressed. We are addicted to our stories. And I would say the same thing, you know. If you've got a library, your life is sort of a library, and you've got a story about every single stage that's happened. If you want to create some space in that library, you need to remove some books. You need to sort of take some out and go, you know what, I'm actually going to create some space for something new. If you don't know what your stories are, if you're like, I don't know what my stories are, I promise you, ask your friends or your family. They will tell you, because you are boring them with your story. I used to have a story about why I was single, because I was single for quite a while. I had a story about men in New York City. I had a story about, you know, why they didn't want relationships and they wanted something else. And I would perpetuate this story. And guess what? You get your story. I was single. That's all I would ever encounter. So drop the stories. That's when sort of life opens up something completely different. Beliefs. A lot can be said about beliefs. People who are good at change are very different in terms of what they believe. They do not feel they need to stick with conventional beliefs. You know, we all grow up as part of a tribe. Our tribe is our family, our religion of birth, our friends, our teachers. Now's the time to go, what of these conventional beliefs works for me? Do I need to keep hanging on to them? I was a walking library of conventional beliefs. And sort of like, is this actually working for me? Do I want to keep these beliefs in place? Is this what actually is right for me? But look at sort of those beliefs that someone else is imposing on you, because that feels really uncomfortable when you're trying to sort of find your purpose and not someone else's, that someone has told you, you need to keep doing this, you need to stick with this. Hardwired programs, third insight I wanted to tell you about. As women, we are hardwired, and the men too, by the way. I know there's some great men in this audience. We are hardwired with two specific programs. One is the disapproval program, and the other is the perfection program. The average woman disapproves of herself about 50 times a day. Your hair, your heels, your weight, your face, your age, what you did, what you didn't do, what you said. I invite you to do what I call the 24-hour no disapproval challenge. From this time, for the next 24 hours, you try to not disapprove of yourself. Okay? Who's up for doing that, by the way? Okay, great. And just track yourself. Don't beat yourself up, but just track it, count it. I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. And you'll start seeing it actually go down. When you are not even in touch with that inner critic, it is running your life. And for me, it was a giant thing. I had so much disapproval going on, I can't even tell you. But start dropping that inner critic and the disapproval, because it is like rock solid around you, and it's rock solid around your heart. The perfection program. So many of us don't start something because we want to get it right. We want to be perfect. What about if I fail? What about if I'm scared? What about if I make mistakes? Look at how you have sort of blocked yourself from actually starting anything just with the desire to be perfect. How much is in there? So much of our stress is by not giving ourselves permission to be human. So drop the disapproval program. There's so many other programs. We have the guilt program going on. We have the staying safe program going on. We have the I want to be in control program going on. So I'm just highlighting these for you, so if you guys have grown antenna on your head while I've been speaking, just sort of go, my God, I'm ruled by the staying safe program as an example. Next insight. Characteristics of people who I've found are really good at change. There's a lot of these. I'm going to speed through them very quickly. One is they are optimists. We've got to give up this victim thing. We're really, really good. I'm a victim of this circumstance. This is what happened. Again, here's the story coming back in, right? But people who are good at change, they believe in themselves, but they really believe in life. They believe that life is on their side. They believe we live in a friendly universe. Even though something difficult, tragic, horrible happened, life is conspiring for good. Is that who you are? Like, do you actually believe you live in a friendly world, or you not? They do not ask for permission. They do not seek approval from the outside world. The world will eventually give you that approval. You need to give it to yourself first. You've got to create a healthy boundary with other people interfering in your life. Because if you let it open, if the doors are open, I promise you, they are going to be ruling your life and not you. People who are going to change embody what I call the change guarantee. Change guarantee, if you remember one thing I say. From any change, something good will come. From any change, something good will come. Write it down, tell your family, tell your friends, write it down at work, wherever you can see it, because if I really showed you, you have what I call a change resume. All the changes you've been through, you have a change muscle. You're so much stronger at change than you've ever given yourself credit for. I could get you to show you how much change you've been through. And every one of you would say, this bad thing happened, but here's the good that came from it. So get back in touch with, no matter what change I make, something good's going to come from it. They have an abundant way of viewing life. People who are bad at change are in scarcity. There's no more jobs. I mean, look at the economy, right? There's no more jobs. There's no more lovers or boyfriends or available men or women or whatever it is. They're all taken. There are no more homes to buy. It's all done. I missed the boat. There are, whatever it is, there's this sense of like scarcity when people are not good at change. People who are good at change are abundant. There's more opportunity. There are more businesses to start. There are more websites. There are more books to write. There's more ideas to pursue. But how, who are you? Are you in the scarcity category? I'm sort of limited. Or are you in the abundant category of what's possible? They're open-minded. They're not into, here's how life works, here's who I am, here's who I've always been. How open-minded are you to sort of going, well, I was an accountant, and now I'm going to go be a yoga teacher? That's a big stretch, but a lot of people want to make that leap. The only thing that's in the way is you and how closed-minded you think you can be and what's possible. They're very human. We need to give ourselves permission to make mistakes. We need to give ourselves permission to be scared. We need to give ourselves permission to be emotional. Emotions are what drive change. It is not your intellect. It's not your education. It's not what you know. It's not who you know. Getting in touch with your emotions is your fuel. That's ultimately what I would say is, as women, allow yourself to be human. Allow yourself to sort of not know. Not knowing is actually a huge gift. They have a support team around them. The worst thing we do as human beings is we keep thinking we're alone. I'm the only one going through this change. No one else has ever felt so depressed. No one else has ever cried so much on the couch. No one else has ever eaten so much ice cream. I'm the only one. It's a very familiar sort of mantra that we do, and because of that, we shut off the world. And we shut off people who can help, people who are right there available, who might have something to offer you. But ask yourself, am I a little bit in the closet with my change? Whatever it is that brought you here today, there's something that brought you here. There's a change, there's an idea, there's an intuition, something's there for you. But who can help you? Have you shared it with people? Even just sort of sharing, here's my dream, here's what I would love, what am I passionate about? So many of us are still in the closet. So start opening up, share it with people next to you, even on the breaks here. And then finally, they take action. So many of us, we talk about our change. I would love fill in the blank. One day, fill in the blank. So we talk about it, and what I would invite you to do is, whatever it takes, take one step to get on the court. On the court is where things happen. It is not on the stands where you're just having a conversation about things. Another insight I would say to you, people who are good at change have a very different relationship with time. We create impossible deadlines on ourselves. You might be thinking, I could make this change, I want to make this change. October is a great month to make change. You don't have to wait till January. And you're thinking, well, how quickly can I get this done? And speed is not the motivator in change. Why you want to change is the motivator. Why? Why do you want to lose the weight? Why do you want to pursue your dreams? Why do you want more money? It's not the how. The how, I promise you, will come. But the why is what gets you off the couch. The why, whatever it is for you, that's actually what's going to be the motivator eventually coming through. People who are good at change, they give themselves a long runway to get their goals. Long runway. It's not January. It's not, I give myself 2 weeks or even a month to get this change done. What I would say is, what I found is that most people really overestimate how much change they can get done in a month or a year. And because of that, we fail and we don't succeed and we don't pick ourselves up again. But we underestimate how much change is possible in 5 years or 10 years. Your life could be radically different. So instead of having the same month or the same year every time, just give yourself a bit more of sort of longer time frame. But have a different relationship with time. Make time your friend. Another insight, which is, you've heard this definitely from all the people at Oprah magazine. You must find something that you love and that you're passionate about. I mean, for me, I really couldn't give a rat's ass about investments. I didn't want to be doing management consulting. I didn't want to be doing any of the jobs I was doing. But I was so out of touch with what I loved, because I'd never been asked what I loved. And it's, again, parents, ask your children what they love, and please encourage that, because otherwise they go off in a very different direction, and they've got to pull themselves back to what it is that they love. But finding what it is that, what it is that inspires the heart, what it is that you want to be doing when you think about work. You think about, I don't even think about work, I just think about my life. There actually is no boundary between the two. But finding ways where, something motivates you in the morning, something's important to you. What I would say too is, for anyone in the audience who's thinking, you know what, I'm past this, I'm a late bloomer. I'm 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or whatever it is. What I would say is there's no such thing as a late bloomer. A late bloomer is the equivalent of saying, you know what, this flower that took a little bit longer to grow is a late bloomer, or this tree. So just drop the late aspect. You are exactly where you need to be at the right time. If some force of God or nature brought you to this conference today, you're in exactly the right space. There's no I'm late. There's no late bloomer. Next, another insight I found, which was so important for myself and I wanted to share, is we live in an and world. We do not live in an either-or world. This was a big block for me, and it's a big block for a lot of women. You can be a mother and a businesswoman. You can be material and spiritual. You can change the world and, make a difference and make money. That was another big one for me. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go do, I want to serve and do charity work. You can do both. So ask yourself, where have you created your block? Where's your, oh my God, I'm going to have to choose between this role or this role? Because again, that's structurally you're cutting yourself in two. Look around you. We live in an and world in all ways. My next book right now, I'll give you a 2-second insight, is a book called A Foot in Both Worlds. And it's a way of how can I be on a spiritual path and be fully in the world? Because even spiritually we go, you know what? Well, if I go off and meditate, then I'm really out of the world, right? Or if I find time to go do something spiritual, then I'm giving up on the rest of my life. And I wanted to sort of show that it's really possible to have both and to integrate those two things together. Stay tuned for that book. Last 2 insights real quick. Probably the most important one for me. The number one thing that was missing in my job was a sense of meaning, a sense of contribution, a sense that what I did with my life, my 100-hour week jobs in New York City, that actually mattered, that it was actually something important, that I actually wanted to do something, that made a difference. And I scored pretty low on those. And so when I went out sort of looking for what I wanted to do with my life, that was probably the main thing I was looking for. Show me how I can serve. Show me how I can help my fellow human beings. And I think deep down we're all craving that. It's the number one thing missing for anyone who doesn't like their job right now. I guarantee you that's probably the number one thing that you're not feeling. Now there's ways to find, ways to contribute and serve outside of your job, and I would invite you to do that as well. Because it's not, oh my God, everyone needs to leave their job now. But I would say find small ways to give back. I always think, if you're not feeling great about yourself, if you're feeling weak right now, if you're feeling like, oh my God, my life's not in a good place, look at all these super happy, motivated people. That's not me at all right now. And I know there's some of you in that seat. I know I was definitely in those seats when I was at some of these conferences. What I would say is, don't compare yourself to anyone else. Everyone's got their own journey. I was definitely oh my God, I should be there, and this is how old I am, and this is what I should have done by now. Give up the comparison program. Comparing is your despair program. Doesn't work for you. So find ways to give back and contribute. If you want to feel powerful, stop this me energy. When you're concerned with your job and your looks and your age and your everything, this me energy is very toxic. The quickest way to feel better is to turn that around. What can I do for someone else? Who needs me? Who's going through a rough time? Who can I call? Who can I send an email to? Turn it around from the me to the giving it out. If you're not feeling great, that's what actually is going on. But find, power moves through those who serve. Power moves through those who serve. We've definitely seen that with Oprah. We've definitely seen that with a lot of our other teachers. Last thing, you must take care of your health. None of this happens if you don't have your health. And I don't just mean your physical health or physically how you look. I mean your emotional health. I mean your spiritual health. For me, how did I lose the weight? I was a vegetarian. That for some reason wasn't helping. I was working out, I was running marathons, and the weight was not falling off. And I was really frustrated, and I was in a lot of despair. And I realized that my weight issue was emotional weight. It was not physical weight. I had a few kilos of anger. I had a lot of kilos of suffering from my father. I had unforgiveness all around me as well of people and things I needed to let go of. I had, the weight was emotional for me. It was sadness, it was regret. So look at that differently. If any of you have some weight issues going on, stop the I need to go to the gym and I need to drink more green juices. All of that stuff is great. I do all of that as well. But look at the emotions that are holding on to you. That's actually what's stopping you right now and what's blocking you. But please do whatever you can. Your self-esteem, the energy that you have to actually go out in the world, make changes for yourself and for other people. You know, becoming what I call a change optimist in this beautiful world. You need to have your health. You need to be an example. You know, you get to be either a warning or you get to be an example. And you can be either one in every different aspect of your life. Spiritually, find some time to be quiet. Please find some time to sort of get in touch with that sort of inner space. You know, when everything around you is changing, your lives are changing, your kids are changing, your jobs are changing, the world is changing, you must find that part of yourself that doesn't change, that part internally that doesn't change. I'd say for me, you know, my two non-negotiables, as I call them, are my health and my spiritual path. What I mean by that is no one touches them. Whatever happens, make a commitment to find your non-negotiables. If you don't, thanks. If you don't, life will walk all over you. And so whether it was during the pregnancy, giving birth, or even the last month, the last 30 days of having a baby, you know, my health and my spiritual path were the two things that most had me grounded, of course. So, conclusion. Whatever it is that has been going on in your head for the last sort of, you know, half an hour that I've been speaking, what is that change for you? What is that thing that you know your inner microphone is already sort of calling your name? Be what I call a woodpecker. Pick that tree and just start pecking away. Because I promise you, those trees do fall, but you've got to keep at it. You've got to get clear on what the tree is. You've got to get clear on why you want it to fall. And typically, trees fall right before you're about to give up. I promise you, I've had a lot of despairing moments, a lot of difficult, sad moments. Trees fall when you're about to give up. So please keep going. So, for me personally, as I said, I made all these big changes, and I jumped into the void, and I really wasn't sure of what was going to be next for me. I had no idea if I was ever going to meet a man again. The mind comes up and basically says, if you break up with this man, no man is ever going to show up afterwards. Which I promise you, it's what happens, you know, when you're thinking about breaking up. And I thought, well, maybe I'm never going to have kids. You know, maybe I've got to hang on really safe, secure to what I've got. Same thing with a job. Am I ever going to make money again if I leave this job that's giving me, you know, a little bit of material abundance? And what happened is, you know, as I said to you, I met and fell in love with a beautiful man. I have had a child who's in the green room and I'm sure dying for some breast milk. I know I'm going to come really soon. And I did start a business, and I can tell you, as hard as a lot of those changes were, and there were a lot of times where you do feel like giving up. And I was single for a while, and I did wait, you know, I'm 40 years old, it took a while for me to have children. But there's a part of me, you know, I gave myself, thank you. I'm gonna get emotional now. What I would say is this, it's a Mother Teresa quote that has helped me a lot throughout the last 10 years, which is, God does not require you to succeed. He or she only requires that you try. And what I would invite you to do today is just try. Like, you have no idea what's possible for you. You have no idea how strong you are, how courageous you are. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So I hope to meet a few of you in the book signing. My name is a very complicated name, so I don't think any of you are going to remember it. It means good neighbor, Ariane de Bonvoisin. And yeah, please come find me online, on Facebook, on Twitter. Please keep in touch. My websites are my full name. God bless you with that one. And also The First 30 Days, which was one of my books that I mentioned. But thank you again. God bless you all. Thank you.